Ayatollah Asif Muhsini, the top scholar of Rijal from among the students of Ayatollah Sayyid al-Khoei. In his introduction to his book, in which he has filtered the massive 110 volume Hadith encyclopedia Biharul Anwar, in the introduction, Ayatollah Muhsini points out how even though the approach of mixing authentic and inauthentic narrations, which the Shia Hadith compilers followed, as I had mentioned, Sheikh al-Kulaini, his book al-Kafi is designed like a museum, which has all sorts of historical artifacts in it associated with the Ahlul Bayt. You have authentic narrations, Quran verified narrations, you have weak and unreliable narrations, you have outright fabrications. So Sheikh al-Kulaini is like a museum curator who is displaying all sorts of artifacts. But the scholars have issued warnings saying that you can't just go into this museum and take anything that's attributed to the Ahlul Bayt and present it as if it is actual teaching of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. So you find in his introduction, he first talks about the advantage of this approach that Sheikh al-Kulaini followed, which is this approach of mixing authentic and inauthentic narration. The advantage is that it helps scholars understand the mindset of the hadith fabricators. And there are other advantages as well, but it also has grave disadvantages. وَأَمَّا الْمَفْسَدَةُ فَهِيَ اعْتِمَادُ أَكْثَرِ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ. As for the grave disadvantage, it can be seen in the reliance of scholars, in addition to non-scholars, on the matn, text of such narration, and their failure to take into account the weakness and unreliability of the chains of the narrations due to the weakness of their narrators by virtue of them being liars, exaggerators, or unverified narrators. In fact, a group of scholars who are familiar with ilm al-rijal, like the author of Biharul Anwar, al-Allama al-Majlisi, do not like to explicitly state that a single chain report has no hujjiyah, no evidentiary value when it has no corroborating evidence, and they ignore the shortcomings in the chain when they are in the process of deriving conclusions based on those reports. And this behavior is very strange from them. Because people like Allama al-Majlisi and even Sheikh al-Kulaini included weak and unreliable narrations in their compilations, even though there is an advantage, but for the lay people, this has proved disastrous because many of the scholars and non-scholars, they have failed to take into account the weakness and unreliability of the chains. And you can see what he's talking about. We can see it on our mainstream Mimbar. If you look at the kind of narrations that they present from Al-Kafi, from Bihar al-Anwar, فَتَرَى كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْمُبَلِّغِينَ وَالْكُتَّابِ يَرْوُونَ مَنْقُولَاتِ الْغُلَاةِ وَالْكَاذِبِينَ وَالْمَجْهُولِينَ. He says, indeed, you see many zakirin and preachers and people of the pulpit, writers and blind followers, presenting the narrations of extremist and deviant exaggerators, liars. You will see many zakirin presenting the narrations of these filthy people as ahadith, as if they are qat'i, as if they are decisively established sunnah, or as if they are like Quranic verses in terms of authenticity and reliability, just because they are found in Biharul Anwar or in other books like Al-Kafi or Man La Yahduruhu al-Faqih. And then he writes that thus they promote these narrations on the pulpits and in books with such eloquent expressions and attractive wordings that affect the hearts of the readers and listeners like magic. Like, for example, with this narration that we are the Asma'ul Husna, even though the narration in itself is so blasphemous, but you try to beautify it, you try to say, no, it's not blasphemous. Saying, well, no, the Ahlul Bayt are reflections and manifestations of Allah's names. In their limited human sense, they reflect the unlimited greatness that's found in Allah's names. All these contorted, creative reinterpretations, all these attempts to beautify a blasphemous fabrication of the Ghulat, the Ghali who invented this, he simply tried to establish a direct equivalence. He did not say that نحن مظاهر أسماء الله تتجلى أسماء الله فينا. The Ghali was not interested in all this pseudo-irfani talk of manifestation and exhibiting and radiating, and he didn't use these attractive flowery words. He straight away went for the jugular of kufr, which is to say the Imams of Ahlul Bayt are the names of Allah. The names of Allah are Allah, Rahman, Rahim. The Ahlul Bayt are Allah, Rahman, Rahim. Not manifestations, they are the name itself, such that if you call Allah, Ya Allah, and if you call upon the Ahlul Bayt, it's the same as calling upon Allah, because it's like calling upon Allah with his name. Ayatollah Muhsini is calling this out, saying, Baba, you don't realize you are presenting narrations of Ghulat and Kazzabin and Majhulin as if they are statements of the Prophet and the Imams, and worse than that, you are promoting these narrations on the manabir and in books and magazines and newspapers, and you are doing it with such eloquent expressions and attractive wordings. And then he says, وَمَا يُؤَمِّنُهُمْ أَنَّهَا لَعَلَّهَا مِنْ وَضْعِ الْوَضَّاعِينَ وَجَعْلِ الدَّجَّالِينَ. What assures them from the possibility that these narrations may be from the fabrications of the fabricators, inventions of the hadith manufacturers? How can we treat these narrations as sayings of the Prophet? Then he quotes the verse of the Quran, Allahu adhina lakum am ala Allahi taftarun. Has Allah permitted you to do so? To attribute fabrications to the Prophet Prophet and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt? Has Allah permitted you to do so, or do you invent lies about Allah to say that anyone other than Allah is His most beautiful names? This is an iftira against Allah. وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And He has strictly forbidden you that you say about Allah that which you do not have certain knowledge of. Allah strictly forbids us from making any claim about Allah that we don't have certain knowledge of. وَلَا تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْحَقِّ. And do not say about Allah except the truth. وَتَقُولُونَ بِأَفْوَاهِكُمْ مَا لَيْسَ لَكُمْ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. You were saying with your mouths that of which you had no certain knowledge. The old verses Ayatollah Muhsini is quoting to discourage the Zakireen from sharing fabricated narrations, from being non-serious about this matter. وَالْمَأْسُوفُ عَلَيْهِ أَنَّ أَمْرَ التَّأْلِيفِ وَالتَّبْلِيغِ وَقَعَ بِيَدِ أَفْرَادٍ لَا يَسْتَحِقُّونَها. It is unfortunate that the task of authoring and preaching has fallen into hands of people who do not deserve it, and it is a means of earning for them. Then he writes the verse of the Quran: فَوَيْلُ لِلَّذِينَ يَكْتُبُونَ الْكِتَابَ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ ثُمَّ يَقُولُونَ هَذَا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ لِيَشْتَرُوا بِهِ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا. So woe unto those who write the scripture with their own hands and say this is from Allah. And they fabricate stuff and then they attribute it to Allah in order to exchange it for a small price. Woe to them for what their hands have written, and woe to them for what they earn. And then he goes on to say: وَآلَ الْأَمْرُ مِنْ جَرَّاءِ هَذِهِ الْمَأْسَاةِ إلى تشكيل ثقافة محرفة في المعارف والأخلاق بل في الفروع الاعتقادية ورسخت في أذهان العوام ومتوسطي أهل العلم بحيث سلبت جرأة الإصلاح عن جمع من الخواص خوفا من ثورة العوام الذين انحرفوا بدورهم من سيطرة الخواص المتوسطين عليهم. وهذا هو خطر عظيم للدين وأهله فإنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. He says this tragic condition has led to the formation of a culture of distortions and misrepresentations in knowledge. Yani now our entire culture, our understanding of the Ahlul Bayt and their teachings is now affected by these misrepresentations, by fabrications in all domains, in knowledge, in ethics, in beliefs, even our Aqidah. Ayatollah Asif Muhsini is a 12-er Imami scholar. This is an Ayatollah who dedicated his life studying the Islamic sciences under Grand Ayatullah Sayyid al-Khoei. So you can't even accuse him. Normally when someone presents something that you find inconvenient, you try to attack the person, character assassination, you're not qualified, you don't have this degree, you don't have that degree. Well, with Ayatollah Muhsini, you can't resort to these kinds of attacks because he has reached the station of ijtihad, and then he is complaining about this. Even he is admitting that our knowledge has become corrupted due to distortions and misrepresentations coming from weak and unreliable narrations. Our ethics has been corrupted, and our beliefs, our aqidah has also been corrupted. The 12-er Imami aqidah of the layperson is corrupted. He says, and it is so rooted in the minds of the common people and the half-educated scholars that a group of the khawas, the elite, yani the most learned and advanced scholars, cannot speak about Islaah, reforms and rectification and course correction because of fear of revolt and uprising of the masses and the general public. Do you see what disastrous situation has resulted from this? He's saying because the people who sit on the Mimbar, they have spent so much time promoting fabrications of ghulat that now the aqidah of the public has been distorted. The aqidah of the public is no longer the aqidah of the Quran and Ahlul Bayt. Their aqidah has now become influenced by the fabrications of the ghulat. Their understanding of akhlaq corrupted by the fabrications of the ghulat. Their knowledge of deen corrupted by the fabrications. And the result of this is that the people who sit on the pulpit, they have become corrupted. The majlis going public, their belief has been corrupted. And now it says, Allah says in the Quran, أَفَمَنْ زُيِّنَ لَهُ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ فَرَآهُ حَسَنًا. Have you considered the case of the person whose evil deed has been made to seem beautiful? This has become so mainstream that now this has caused a group of the khawas, yani the most elite, most learned and advanced level scholars, it has put them in a situation where they cannot speak about Islah, course correction, because of fear of revolt and uprising of the awam. So many times when people ask the question that, all of these things you people are talking about on al-Islah, why don't we see more mainstream speakers, scholars, highest level marji'iyah, why don't they come out more forcefully? And Ayatollah Muhsini, having studied under the highest level marji'iyah, he's telling you the answer. That Baba, the Zakireen have corrupted the public so much that now even the most learned people inside the 12-er Imami sect, they are now all fearful of speaking about reform. They are fearful to correct the wrongs in society. Why? خوفا من ثورة العوام. Out of fear of an uprising, of being overthrown by the awam. The awam, through constant bombardment from the Mimbar, they have been sold this ghali ideology to the point that they now think this is real tawheed. When it comes to shirk, they think wilaya takwiniya is aynut tawheed. It's a real essence of tawheed. And how do they fool themselves? By saying, well, because I believe it's all from Allah. Yeah, my friend, even the Christian who claimed that Isa alayhi salam is the son of God, he claimed this was done by Allah. وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا. They say Allah has taken a son. So it's with his permission. Allah is the one who has done it. You think that if you take something that is kufr and shirk and you say Allah has given permission for it, it becomes tawheed. With wilaya takwiniya, the this is the exact absurd argument they used to justify it. They falsely claim, based on fabricated narrations, that Allah gave divine functions such as running all the affairs of the universe, sustaining, giving rizq from across ghaib. These are divine functions that Allah repeatedly attributes to himself. I'm the Khaliq, I'm the Raziq, I'm all of this. They say that yes, Allah is all of this, but Allah has given all of these powers and functions to the Ahlul Bayt, so that most of what Allah does, Ahlul Bayt also do with His permission. When this claim was taken to the Ahlul Bayt, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, how did they respond? They responded by reciting the verses of Quran revealed against the mushrikeen and saying, Baba, if you're going to claim this about us, then your belief and your claim is no different to the claim of the mushrikeen in the time of the Prophet. They lied by saying that the angels are the daughters of Allah, and then they started worshipping those daughters as a wasila to come closer to Allah. Not just angels, they claimed this for their idols also. That ma na'buduhum illa liyuqarribuna ila Allahi zulfa. They said, we don't worship these idols except so that they should bring us closer to Allah. The ultimate was Allah. Even for the kuffar and mushrikeen of Makkah, Allah was their ultimate. But where did they go wrong? They went wrong in the false claims that they made. This is what shaitan does. He takes your evil and he beautifies it with logic, with zukhruful qawl. You start thinking that to believe that the Imams of Ahlul Bayt have the divine powers of Allah and that they are running the divine offices of Allah, that they give life, death and rizq and offspring with His permission. You think this is kamalut tawheed, perfection and the beauty of tawheed. Because I believe Allah does all of it. Yes, the Christian also believes Allah made Isa the son. They believe Allah made Isa part of the Trinity. Shirk is always based on iftira. Without iftira, yani without inventing false claims about Allah, there can exist no shirk at all. The moment you finish iftira, shirk ceases to exist. And this is what's happening in our communities, to the point that Ayatollah Sheikh Muhammad Asif Muhsini is saying that the reformers even have lost hope. Yani there is a group of khawas, elite scholars who want to speak about Islaah, who want to reform and rectify and course correct, but they cannot speak about it because of fear of revolt and uprising of the awam, the masses and the general public. There are many speakers in our communities who want to say everything that we are saying at al-Islaah, but they can't. They'll get cancelled. The Mimbar will be taken away from them. You promote blasphemy from the Mimbar, which are in favor of ghulu, we will tolerate you. In fact, we will celebrate you. But if you dare to challenge any innovation or any deviation that the public has grown accustomed to, then this Mimbar is not for you. And so because of fear of getting cancelled, Ayatollah Muhsini says, a lot of people in the 12er Imami sect who have studied ilm al-rijal and ilm al-hadith in depth, and because of all of this study, they know what's happening in the community is 100% wrong. You will see them quiet. Even if you probe them and ask them a question, they will try to dodge your question and run away from it. Why? He says, khawfan min al-awam, because no one likes to get cancelled. No one likes to be character assassinated. No one likes to be hated. Because of this, he says, in the 12er Imami sect, those who want to do Islah can't do it. This is a great danger to the deen and its people. And he ended by saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ayatollah al-Qazwini, professor in the Department of Advanced Studies and head of Department of Hadith, when he comments on a weak chain narration which a Salafi and Wahhabi scholar had tried to use to argue that the Shia Hadith heritage is tainted by narrations which promote shirk. So when it came to the defense of the Shia heritage, this Ayatollah wrote this book. And by the way, this book is published by Waliul Asr Institute, which is where Ayatollah Hussein al-Qazwini, that Ayatollah who had issued an open invitation to reformists, he had said that any reformists who want to come and debate, we will cover their costs. And that same institute is the institute that has published this book. These are anti-reformist scholars. So in his response, look at what he writes. He says, إِنَّ الْمُتَأَمِّلَ فِي أَدْعِيَةِ الشِّيعَةِ وَمُنَاجَاتِهِمْ. He says, anyone who carefully examines Shi'i supplications will find nothing but humility, reverence, and lowering of oneself before Allah. Readers can reflect on Dua Kumail. Notice the choice of du'as. Readers can reflect on Dua Kumail, Dua Abi Hamza Thumali, Dua Jawshan al-Kabir, and the supplications of As-Sahifa Sajjadiyah, all well-known and widely recognized prayers among Imami Shia, to see how these supplications deepen the spirit of Tawheed within individuals and encourage humility and devotion to the Rabbul Alameen. Notice how when he's trying to defend the Shia heritage, look at what are the du'as that he mobilizes to counter the claim of the Wahhabi that Shia heritage teaches shirk. Look at the du'as. He says readers can reflect on Dua Kumail, Dua Abi Hamza Sumali, Dua Jawshan al-Kabir, supplications of Sahifa Sajjadiyah. Notice how he doesn't mention Dua al-Nudba, he doesn't mention Dua Tawassul, he doesn't mention Ziyaratul Jami, Jami'a. So this shows you these ulama also deep down in their heart of hearts, they understand, they realize, and they know that these du'as have shirk in them. These du'as are contaminated and polluted by the dirt of ghulu. They cannot point to ziyarat Jami'a and the atrocious iftiraz against Allah in this ziyarah and tell the ummah, come look, this is our tawheed. Innama alayka al-balagh wa alayna al-hisab. Your only job is to convey and deliver the message, and on us is the hisab, not on you. But ziyarat Jami'a says, no, wa iyabul khalqi ilaykum wa hisabuhum alaykum. All creations will return to you, O imams, and their hisab will be taken by you. All of these things which unfortunately those who have been deceived in our community, if you ask them what is the peak of Tawheed and what represents the correct Shia understanding of Tawheed, those who have been deluded and deceived by the fabrications of the ghulat, they will tell you Ziyarat Jami'ah. They will tell you Dua Tawassul, this is the peak of Tawheed. Dua al-Faraj, Ilahi A'zum al-Bala, and then you invoke the 12th Imam. They cannot with a straight face dare to look the ummah in the eye and say this is our Tawheed, because deep down they recognize, they can see, they understand, they're not blind. They know that this is ghulu, these are iftiraz against Allah. And that's why when they address the other sects, they put forward the Quran verified supplications. And Ayatollah Muhsini is telling you this has become so mainstream that now even the most learned of the khawas, they are now all fearful of speaking about reform. They are fearful to correct the wrongs in society. Khawfan min thawratil awam, out of fear of an uprising, of being overthrown by the awam. This is a great danger to the deen. فَإِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ.